Hello, and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin from the Modern Observer Group. And with me, as always, is Chip Janizewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how you doing this week?
I'm doing great. How about you, Eric?
Doing fantastic. We've
If,
had we've had some beautiful warm weather. The flowers are blooming, everything's green.
yeah, May's doing wonderful, and for me, obviously, but I'm heading out to California for 2 weeks, starting on Wednesday for my wife's and my 45th anniversary vacation. So, life is truly good, and I hear weather's good out there too. And so, I won't be back until June.
Yeah, we'll be taking a few weeks off from the podcast as Chip enjoys California, and I'll be heading out to Colorado for work. So we will be all over the country. And when we get back, who knows? Maybe we'll have some great stories to tell you. Well, today we've got a special guest, Andy Richmond. Andy works at the Serve Pro in Farmington Valley in Connecticut. And Serve Pro are experts in fixing disasters after they happen. So, Andy, welcome.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it.
Why
Thanks for
don't you
having me, Chip.
why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
A little bit about myself. My name is Andy Richmond. I'm the business development manager for the Surf Pro location out of the Farmington Valley. We have actually two franchises. We have Surf Pro of the Farmington Valley, and we also have Surf Pro of Bristol. I started my professional career. I was a restaurant manager successfully for a good 10 or 12 years. Was able to get out of the restaurant business and then into sales. I landed here at Serve Pro a couple years back, and things are going very well. Unfortunately, my business is predicated on unfortunate disasters, and they do happen. So the good news is we have a very large name brand company. All the Serve Pros are franchised and they're independently owned. I actually work for a second generation, 42-year-old company. The gentleman who owns my company bought the company from his dad, who started 42 years ago. And he purchased the company a couple of years ago, reached out to me. We did some collaborating, and here I am.
Fantastic. So, tell us a little bit about how you got into restaurant management first.
I got into restaurant management. I was pushed by my dad to go to college and study something that nobody in our family had studied. So I got my bachelor's degree in hotel and restaurant management. And while I was at school, I had to do an internship at either a hotel or a restaurant during my college days. So that's where I started out. I got lucky enough to work for a very large company. I want to say my senior year of college, company called Houston's. I got lucky enough to get into their management training program, trained, stayed with them for a couple of years, then moved back home to the Boston area, uh, managing restaurants.
Nice. Now, managing restaurants, this is not 9 to 5. This, yeah, your hours had to be
Yeah.
pretty crazy.
They were not conducive to having a family. So once I had children, I immediately made the switch. I got lucky enough to get a job selling paper products for a small company, family-owned company called Russell Hall in Meriden, Connecticut. Um, and I landed there pretty safely, and had a good run there for about 7 or 8 years, and then been doing very similar jobs along the way.
Yeah, and since you've gotten to Servo, I mean, you and I have got to know each other very, very well the last couple of years. And really, I mean, what you do, first of all, is show up, Serve Pro. You show up as a representative, and then Serve Pro goes into, clean up the disaster and get people going again. But the other part of your business, which I know that you've recently got involved with over the last year, is going in there and making a bid to do the whole restoration projects and putting things back together again. So, I mean, talking about a job being on call, I was at a meeting a month or two ago where the phone rang at 8 o'clock and you were gone like a sieve. I mean, basically, if something's going on, you got to be there. And, you know, you have to deal with the people that are there. And obviously, you have a wonderful personality and a great deal of empathy for people and what they're going through. And I think that's helped you out a whole lot as far as doing what you're doing now, because you had reservations about actually talking to them about hopefully doing the renovation for them while they're facing the disaster in the first place. But that seems to be going very well with you. But tell me about what it's like, on the day-to-day job, and how you keep this positive output for this, because you do a wonderful job at doing what you're doing, and I think it's a whole part of who you are. So tell us about a couple of days in the life of Andy Richmond and ServPro and what they might be like.
Oh boy. Well, thank you for the kind words. I really appreciate that. I feel the same way. Feel the same way about you and Eric as well. I've known you guys for a couple of years, and nothing but great things on all fronts. When I took this job with ServPro, I had met with Eric, the owner of my company, 6 times because I tried to talk him out of making me an offer. It was going to be very difficult for me to talk to people when they're at their weakest, when they're suffering from pain, when things are a mess, catastrophic, very stressful. And to be quite honest, I wasn't sure I could pull it off. And he begged to differ. So he won that battle. When somebody goes through something that is stressful, whether it's a flooded basement, whether it's a tree through the house, whether unfortunately a fire, any type of emergency services, I try to get to the scene as quickly as I possibly can. And what I've learned over the last couple of years is I have to be able to read the room. There have been several situations where I've approached the homeowner, and there have been several times I have not approached the homeowner. Because I don't want to be that guy that everybody else is involved and everybody's fighting for that business. And it's just not, it's not who I am. So I would rather follow up the next day or make a few phone calls or give them time to process exactly what's going on. Because when you suffer a loss like that, it takes, it's very stressful. It's very stressful on your house, on your family, on your kids, the whole 9 yards. So I try to be very compassionate first and realize that, yeah, this is a job. It's my responsibility. It's my income, but at what cost? I would rather walk away from a situation where somebody is so stressed out, it's not even worth it because I'm representing myself. I'm representing my company. My boss treats me as if I'm the owner of the company. So it only benefits me to be as professional as possible, good, bad, or indifferent. The sales will always come. So that's how I approach it. And for that, I've had I had a successful year last year, motivating myself to those situations. A day in a life for me is phone rings. I have to answer it. I cannot send it to voicemail because I certainly don't want to lose an opportunity. And I have to get as many details from whoever is calling me in a matter of about 3 or 4 minutes, because that's all the time that they want to talk, and they don't want to talk about what is going on or what happened or who they've already contacted. 50 to 60% of my business comes from referrals, which is most of my networking groups. So I am very grateful. That's why I show up. That's why I attend. That's why I go to every meeting I possibly can. And if my phone rings and I have to exit, then I have to take that opportunity. Some days are slamming. Some days are very slow. It seems to be like the holidays, any holiday, Yesterday was Mother's Day. There were two fires in Bristol, which is unbelievable. So it's just unpredictable, and it keeps me on my toes during business hours, after business hours. My phone is always on, and as everybody knows, something that you don't want happen to your house, whether it's a busted pipe or a small kitchen fire, it's not going to happen Monday at 2 o'clock. It's going to happen probably Sunday night around 8 o'clock. It's going to happen when it's not convenient. So that has been a challenge, but I'm blessed to say that I have a good support system. I have good people around me. I have enough integrity to know when to speak to the homeowner and when not to speak to the homeowner, because that's what it's about. My relationships don't change from one job to the next. I'm the same person.
Excellent. So, you started off that by saying that you were trying to talk your boss out of hiring you. What was
Correct.
it that finally changed your mind, that made you say, okay, yes, I can do this?
So I don't think it was, yes, I can do this. It was more of, I'll give it an opportunity. It could be pretty promising. It could be an opportunity that I don't want to pass up, and I don't want to look back and say, oh, I should have taken that opportunity. And I was taught at a very young age, I have to give it everything I have. So I did.
Right. Yeah. Nobody ever regrets doing something on their deathbed. It's always the opportunities they didn't take. So, yeah, that's an ongoing theme that we've had on this show. And I love that you followed through on that. Yeah, we've had a lot of business owners on the show. And no matter if you're the owner, you're a business development person, you're looking for a job, at some point, we're all doing sales. You're doing it at a time when someone is dealing with an abject disaster. So, what is it that tells you, you know what, this is not the time to talk to them? I'll call them tomorrow. Or conversely, you know what, they need me right now. Let me get in there.
Good question. For number one, in any situation that I deal with, I have to make sure that everybody is safe. Okay. So if everybody's safe, then I take one step. Step number two is any animals involved. If the animals are hurt, I take a step back. If I can take 3 steps forward and people are willing to talk to me, I give them that opportunity. If they're not ready, I'm not in a situation where it's a hard sell, or this sale depends on whether I'm going to be able to eat tomorrow. It's more of a, this is who I am. This is what I can provide to you. This is my company. I took the job because of the name brand recognition, right? I work for a very large corporation that does a lot of work nationwide. So 9 times out of 10, I usually don't have to tell people what I do. But in those stressful situations, I always give them my elevator pitch, tell them who I am, introduce myself, present myself well. And I usually let the homeowner decide what direction they'd like to go in, because I can't disrupt my integrity.
No, and the way you handle this is perfectly. I mean, obviously, when there's a crisis, and people are panicking. There's lots of things going on, and eventually, it's just human nature. But part of it's going to be, what am I going to do? And obviously, what you're doing is reading the situation. But when they need to know the answer to that question, or they ask that question, that's when you're there really as a guide to calm them down and help them through the situation. And I know that you were a little bit anxious as far as actually talking to them about doing the work to fix things and so on and so forth. But I would imagine that people have a natural calm about dealing with you because you choose the proper moment and the right approach to approach them in the first place. And I'm sure that helps you out a lot. And I'm sure where you were anxious in doing that side of the business a while ago, but got into it, you've realized that there really is it's not something that you're looking forward to doing, but you have the ability to, and there's got to be some type of intercom in you that you can help them through situations like this where a lot of other people can. It's just because of the way that you handle it, just being there at the right moment, as you say.
Yeah, well said. I mean, it's nobody wants to have any type of damage to their property. But unfortunately, real life, it happens. And I took a lot of pride in the fact that I could get somewhere pretty quick. I mean, quick, about half an hour, quick to an hour. And I put myself in a situation to help myself, my boss, my company. I take the responsibility of being the front runner for this company. We have a lot of employees, and I take that responsibility of providing for all of them and their families. So it's not just me and my world and So I think it's crucial to read the room. I really do, and I think that I learned that a while back because of some situations that I was put in. And if I don't get that sale, at least I'm learning some lessons. And I think that's why I've excelled pretty quickly. Is I've learned quite a few lessons along the way, getting the sales and not getting the sales. And every salesman knows that, or any good salesman knows that if you're back in your vehicle and you're not having a conversation about what you could be doing better or how you could have approached it or what you should have done or what you should have said, not really getting much out of it. So I have a lot of internal meetings with myself.
Yeah, you've sort of been dancing around the word, but it's something that's come up a lot on this podcast, and it's authenticity. Everything that you're approaching, it's about being yourself. You're not putting on an air, you're not putting on a persona. You're approaching this as you and connecting with your potential clients in a time of need.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's well said. I mean, I'll give you one example of a situation that happened just about 6 weeks ago. Young lady had a fire in her townhouse when she was not home. Unfortunately, I got called to the scene and she was not home. She came home and realized that her pets had deceased and she was a mess, crying hysterically. I left. I called my boss. I said, I'm leaving. She lost her couple of animals. I'll catch up with her another time. Now, there are other companies like myself, my companies that stayed, but I just don't have it in me. That's not who I am. To make a long story short, I followed up with this young lady for several weeks. We actually got the job last week. So, and all just by following up, being aware of the situation, understanding that not only did she lose a couple of pets, but her house is destroyed. I know from looking into the future that we can help her. We can help the situation. She's in a new area. This is all new to her, and she lost a couple of pets. So we're not going anywhere. And I know firsthand that we can help her out. So, sometimes you have to have a little patience. I know a lot of salespeople, including myself, we struggle with that. But if you're patient enough, good things will happen for you.
So, yeah, the example you just gave, it took several weeks for you to land the client. So, for our listeners that are not familiar, how would you define restoration business? I mean, obviously, if it's taking a few weeks to, get the client, you're not the folks that are coming in and actually stopping the disaster. Like you're not, if there's a flood, you're not stopping the leak.
Correct. So one of the most important words out of my franchise is ethical. Okay, we're ethical. So if you call me, or if anybody calls and says, I have a busted pipe, can you come out and help me? We can, but we're not going to come out until you get the pipe fixed. We're not coming out twice. We're not going to charge you twice. We're not going to charge the insurance company twice. We're going to do it once. Okay. So restoration is fire, water, mold, any type of damage, emergency services, 24 hours, 7 days a week. Somebody has a small kitchen fire. Somebody has a pipe burst. Somebody has a sewage backup. Mold. We run into a lot of mold issues. We have a lot of people that have flooded basements and they attempt to clean the water up themselves, put a dehumidifier down and call it a day. But a lot of people don't understand that if you do not properly dry that area, the minute it gets humid, you're going to see some mold. And unfortunately, as I tell everybody, if you want to do it yourself, more power to you. Me personally, that's like me taking apart an engine or changing the oil of my car. It's not going to happen. I don't know how to do that stuff, and I'm okay with it. And what happens is a lot of people say that they're going to shop back at themselves, and then they call me 6 months later and say, I have mold. And unfortunately, mold is double the price of the extraction. So, it's all relative, right? Most of my work is when I get a phone call and I have to guide people into the process of which they should do. Here's my number. Here's what you need to do. Call your insurance company, get a claim number, file a claim. Okay. Once you do that, most of the pressure is off because it's the unknown. And then our project managers work directly with the insurance companies to take the homeowner, pretty much put them right on the sideline as an outsider looking in so that they don't get involved. And there's a lot of emotions. So we're coming out to the house once. We're not coming back twice. We're ethical. We want the problem fixed. If you have a sewer backup, okay, we will come out. We're going to clean that up right away. That's a major priority. But we're also going to recommend on the document paperwork that you get a plumber to fix the issue, because if it happened once, it'll probably happen again.
Yeah, and when something like this happens, I mean, one, the homeowner is overwhelmed by just the fact that it's happening. Then they don't necessarily know all of the steps that have to go into the cleanup. And of course, they're stressing about costs. So you're talking about dealing with folks who are, not in a good place, don't know necessarily how to move forward. And you're sort of taking them and, saying, we'll take care of all of this. You don't have to worry about it.
Right. So I attribute to some of the success I have with ServPro to my restaurant days, because managing a restaurant is it's very tough work. So when Billy comes up to you and says table 5 wants to see you, you have to go to table 5. Now, when you get there, anything can happen. Anything can happen, and you have to be ready for anything. It could be good, it could be bad, it could be so-so. And I pretty much guide these phone calls I get to that situation, because I don't know what nobody calls me and says, hey, how you doing? How's your day today? I have 5 inches of water in my basement. That's usually not how the conversation goes.
Yeah,
it's usually
they're not big on small talk at that point.
Yeah, it doesn't happen too often. I got your number from a guy who I know, who I network with, says you can help me. My first answer is, yes, I can. Who are you? What town do you live in? Okay, what happened? What's the problem? Let me tell you the process. Did you call your insurance company? And then we'll go from there. So it can be very stressful. It's never a good time. It's never, but it happens, and it happens more than people think. Happens on everything I just mentioned happens every day in every town. So it's pretty bizarre, but it happens.
Yeah, and all of these situations happen with generally no warning.
Zero.
You know, um, and it's not necessarily something that you can see coming. Uh, give you an example. We had at my house. Fortunately, we didn't have any damage from this, but 4 Thanksgivings in a row, we had blackouts because some drunk was going along the road and smashed into a transformer. Now, that could have caused fires, that could have caused all sorts of damage, none of which was predictable by us. And that's sort of, what's going on. When these things happen, it's a surprise to the homeowner. It's not something that they've got, oh, this is going to happen in 5 or 6 weeks. Nope, it just, there it is.
It is it's pretty bizarre. In the last couple of years, I've seen a lot of things. Um, I've seen houses being hit by lightning. I've seen complete and total water damage that I don't even know where it came from. But it happens. But that's the reason why you pay for insurance. I mean, the reason why you have insurance is so that you're covered in these situations. And then you never expect that you would need it. So 95% of our 95% of our customers are insurance based. There's very self pay on our end. What we do is it's not really preventative maintenance, if you will.
Right. All right. We are just about at the end of our time. And I know
Wow, that was quick.
Yeah, we mentioned earlier that you're with the Surf Pro in Farmington Valley and Bristol, but Surf Pro as a company, different franchises are all over the country. So if somebody needs to get a hold of Surf Pro, how can they do so?
Well, our number one top seller is Google. That's a home run, and wherever your location is, it will guide you to the nearest and local Surf Pro. That's the best move.
Fantastic. So, Chip, what do you think is the big takeaway for this week?
And if you've ever been to a networking meeting with Andy, his networking introduction is very, very simple, and it's very, very to the point, talking about how you get a hold of ServPro. His commercial is, everybody knows what ServPro does. And he says, my ask is very simple. Put your phone number in your contact manager. You or somebody that you know will need it sometime. And that's what you say. And once they call you, you have the process where, again, you talk about the insurance company, getting a claim number, and so on and so forth. And you have the demeanor to calm people down, to take them through the process and really guide them. You walk away from it yourself, learning things. So you just got really the whole program going for yourself, which is wonderful. But the whole way that you handle this, hopefully, if there's not a template for the other ServPro franchises all around the country, you could probably write this thing down relatively simple. If they follow this whole thing works, and you're just perfect in doing it. And it's just a perfect way to handle this, because obviously what you do is stressful, and yet you always walk around with a smile. So it's wonderful to know you and to have you on here.
Wow, thanks, Chips. Really appreciate the kind words. It means a lot to me. It really does. That's it. I mean, if you have my number, put me down. Hopefully you'll never call, but if you do, we're gonna be here for you. So
I think for me, the big takeaways are the fact that you're succeeding through authenticity and compassion. You're not driving the sale through fear, you're not pushing. It's all about being there for the client. And that's something, regardless of your industry, it's a lesson that everybody can learn. Be there for people, be your authentic self, and show compassion. Those two things can go further than any sales technique you're going to read in a book or learn in a course. So I think that's really the big takeaway for me. You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch us every week at xvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Audible, Amazon Music, and wherever you find podcasts. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. We'll see you then.